Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is 30 days without alcohol. If it's your first time here, my name is Amanda. I am 37. I am a mom. I've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I typically make working mom content here on YouTube, but I am on an alcohol-free journey right now. As we speak, I am 65 days, no alcohol. And if you're interested in the why behind it, I have a whole video on why I stopped drinking after a 20-year drinking career. I will link that video in the description box below, but to sum it up, I just got to a point where alcohol in small doses, meaning a couple of glasses of wine once a month, was having tremendous effects on just my overall mental health. I would feel depressed for 3 to 4 days after I drank a minimal amount of alcohol. I was very anxious after drinking and before drinking. I wasn't drinking to get drunk. I was just doing it for pretty much social reasons, and I realized I had this epiphany moment where I got really drunk and woke up. I felt really horrible. I talk about all of this in a previous video that I will link, but it was pretty much an aha moment where I was just like, drinking is not serving me anymore, and I am ready to just completely stop. It doesn't have a place in my life. It's not bringing anything positive into my life, and I'm done. So I want to share with you today my first 30 days without drinking alcohol, and surprisingly, it was completely awful. I watched so many videos about how stopping drinking, if you're not an alcoholic, I'm talking about you don't have a problem like me. I occasionally would drink here and there, maybe once a month, tops 2 times a month, and maybe max 2 drinks on one of those occasions. And so I didn't have a problem with alcohol. I wasn't dependent on it, not an alcoholic, just like a very social drinker. I would only drink if we went out to dinner with friends or with my husband, or there was a birthday or a special occasion. So I thought that I would start to have like really good effects of not drinking because I wasn't drinking that much. I was completely wrong. So in the video that I referenced earlier, it was Easter weekend, and that Easter Sunday, I drank way too much. I decided, it was April 1st, the day after Easter, that I was done drinking completely, and I was giving it up for good. So that week, that first week of not having alcohol was so awful. I would get very depressed after a couple drinks. Well, that Easter weekend, I drank Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It was kind of like, Sunday was a bender. I drank everything from mimosas to Cosmos to espresso martinis. I was up extremely late till 1 a.m. and I knew the next day and the next few days were gonna be terrible in terms of like the depression. So that first week, I literally almost felt like I was a different human being. I felt so depressed. I was in a deep, dark hole. Not only was I sad, regretful, unmotivated, unproductive, and tired, I also had really bad physical effects that week. Weird physical effects from the drinking that I normally don't have. So of course I wasn't sleeping well at all. I was very anxious all the time. I didn't get good night's sleep. It wasn't restful for probably almost 5 days. But the weirdest thing, so I think on, what day was it? On Thursday. So I had the bender on Sunday. The following Thursday, I was like, okay, I need to snap out of this. I can't continue to wallow in my sorrows and just feel sad, feel depressed. So I need to work out, because working out is therapy for me. It always lifts my spirits. It always makes me feel really good. It's really good for my mental health. So I was like, I'm gonna work out. I need to get back onto a routine. And if you've been watching my channel, you know that I thrive on a routine. And when I'm off it, it's really bad. I like become a different person. I go into a hole and it's just not pleasant. So I decided to work out finally on Thursday, and for almost 5 days after that workout, I felt so sore. And it's not like I just started working out that day and my body wasn't used to it, I consistently work out 4 days a week. And I did, you know, a 20-minute strength workout, nothing crazy. And for 5 days after, I was so sore. It was the weirdest feeling ever because I had never, especially after just a 20-minute strength workout, not lifting that heavy of weights, usually I don't feel anything the next day. Maybe a little soreness, but that good soreness, but this soreness was so strange. So my first week was so bad. I was in a very bad state mentally. I was really feeling depressed, but I was also very motivated to not drink anymore. So I consumed so much information on the effects of drinking alcohol and how bad it is for your body and what it does to your brain cells, to your sleep, to your mental state, like the addictive nature of it. And I mentioned in my last video, one of the best podcasts that I listened to was Andrew Huberman's, like the Huberman Lab. He did a podcast that I watched on YouTube about the effects of alcohol on the body. And it was just so eye-opening. And so I Googled everything. Effects of alcohol, quitting alcohol. I listened to tons of YouTube videos where people were just talking about their experience of quitting alcohol and the why behind it and the benefits of it and how it's changed their lives. And I was just a sponge. I consumed as much as I could. And that pretty much, that obsession with learning about the effects of alcohol and how quitting it is gonna benefit you, that continued for the entire 30 days. So moving into week 2, that week I kind of got this like burst of energy towards the end of the week. I feel like the alcohol was finally out of my system. I was sleeping better than I was the week before, but wasn't sleeping great. And then on that Friday, I think it was a Friday or Saturday, I had plans to go out to dinner with my girlfriends. So this was very stressful on me. I had a lot of anxiety about not drinking and what people were gonna think about it. And, you know, it wasn't gonna be a problem. Am I gonna feel awkward? Are they gonna be like, why are you doing this? Am I gonna get the 3rd degree? Like, I was very anxious about not drinking. Obviously, my friends are so great and wonderful. And it's not the first time that I've talked to them about my, you know, depression that I felt after drinking and like thinking about not drinking. So it wasn't anything new to them, but anyway, I still built it up a lot. But I didn't drink and I was totally fine. I felt awkward during the dinner, but anyway, I stayed the course. I ordered a mocktail, like a mocktail mojito, I think it was. And even though it was very uncomfortable for me, I made it through. And that night after I got home and then the next day, I just felt such a sense of pride and relief. And pride is probably the best word. I was just so proud that I didn't drink, so relieved that the next day I wasn't gonna wake up feeling like crap and not wanting to do anything, not wanting to wake up with the kids, no. You know, all of those bad things that come with the hangover and eating crappy and all of that. So I guess that was a Saturday night. So I wrote in my notes that I woke up on Sunday feeling so refreshed, and I even worked out a 5th day that week. So normally I work out 4 days a week. This week I worked out on a Sunday. I added the extra day because I just felt so good. I want to talk about my sleep just a little bit because they say from a lot of, you know, research that I've done and videos that I've watched, they say that your sleep really improves at least a week after you stop drinking. And I don't know what it was for me. I think I was so obsessed with the fact that I wasn't drinking and all of the information that I was like consuming that my mind would just race at night. And I did not get a good sleep the entire first month of not drinking. I was so obsessed with the fact that I wasn't drinking that I just think that my brain was on 24/7. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't fall asleep easily, and if once I did fall asleep, I was waking up multiple times in the middle of the night. It's just a very strange thing, and probably just like the energy that I felt around this new way of life I don't know. I can't really explain it, but I was waking up in the middle of the night and I was having a very hard time waking up in the mornings. And I just like, I remember filming YouTube videos and watching myself and being like, oh my gosh, I have like deep dark circles under my eyes. And I think it was just this like, on the days, like during the day, this overconsumption of information and this adrenaline around the passion for this way of life and topic that my brain just couldn't shut off. And I was really wired and always just like my mind was going. So anyway, that happened throughout the month. I just wanted to mention that I did not experience good sleep whatsoever. And I know what good sleep is because I've been getting it now that I am 65 days in. So I'll do another video. But on week 3, I was feeling so much better than the previous 2 weeks. I was getting up at 5 a.m. on a consistent basis. I was getting the kids out the door into daycare by like 7:20, 7:30, whereas in the past, you know, I would wait and it would be, you know, close to 7:45 when I would get them out the door. So that positive momentum of actually getting up and committing to get my kids out the door by 7:20 and succeeding, and then getting home and starting work around 8:15, just having that schedule and extra time really was motivating, and I felt so good about that. I started feeling sharper at work. I was more articulate. I was more focused on my work. I feel like I was contributing more in meetings, like raising my hand more. I was procrastinating a lot less than I normally would. I was feeling like I could jump into my work on a Monday instead of waiting until like Wednesday, Thursday to kind of tackle those hard projects and really feel like I was in the swing of things. I felt like I was in just like overall a better mood. I was more even-tempered. I was more even-tempered with my kids, less of the annoying things that would normally, you know, bother me, or I would, you know, raise my voice to the kids. I was finding that I wasn't doing that. I was just more tolerant and laid back and calm about things. I was starting to feel some of those benefits, but I also was writing a lot about feeling kind of anxious all the time. Looking back on it, I was really struggling with my identity because for so long, and I feel like struggling with my identity because I really felt committed to this new version of myself. And if you think about it, if you make a really big change in your life, you kind of assume a new identity. I used to be martini girl, go out, have some dirty martinis. I used to, you know, always have a drink. My husband would make me and my friends Cosmos. I loved my wine, like, and I felt like that was a big part of my identity. I felt like I was more fun, more talkative, more outgoing when I was drinking. And yes, that's true. I was really truly struggling with who am I without alcohol. And it's weird to think about how much that defined me. And I didn't even realize it, you know, because most of the time you're not drinking. Like most of the time I am just a mom. I am working 5 days a week. I am taking care of my kids, making dinner, cleaning the house. Like that's mainly who I am. But I didn't realize how much of a hold alcohol actually had on me and how much I felt like I almost changed as a person, and now that I am not drinking. So I kind of was going through this identity crisis, and that came with a lot of anxiety. Like, are my friends gonna still like me? What are my parents gonna think? What are my friends from New Jersey who I am known to just go balls to the walls and go crazy with and go on girls trips and do our shore houses with, like this person? Like, what are they gonna all think of me? And what do I think of myself, you know? So I think I really was in this kind of like identity crisis moment, trying to figure out what my life and who I am look like without alcohol. And so I think that, along with the obsession and overconsumption of information around what alcohol does to you and quitting drinking and all of that stuff, I don't know, like I said before, I feel like I was in this just like buzzing state where I couldn't shut my brain off at night, and there was just no off button. And I was also at the same time struggling with who am I, and also struggling with the anxiety of going out in social situations. I was really trying to figure out, how do I continue to go out and socialize and do it in a way where I wasn't drinking and I wasn't bothered by not drinking. And I think that was another thing. A lot of this was in my head. Like, seriously, nobody cares. Like, all of my friends, if you have good friends and family, everybody should be supportive of something like a life change that you are making to better yourself. And for whatever reason, it was all in my head that like people were not gonna think that I was fun, or people were gonna think I was weird, or not gonna wanna invite me to go do things that had alcohol involved with it. And what I've come to realize now is that it's all in my head, and I was building up these social events way more personally than anybody else who was with me cared. I also will say that during this period of time, because I had so much anxiety, I was extremely emotional. Like, I felt very fragile, and I'm not an emotional person. I keep things to myself. I keep things bottled up. I don't like talking about my feelings. I am not very in touch with my feelings, aside from the basic ones. I like to brush things under the rug. I don't like conflict. I don't really cry that much. I don't talk about how I'm feeling a lot. Pete and I, you know, I'll tell him if I'm sad or whatever, but most of the time, if you ask me why I'm sad or feeling a certain way, I have a very hard time articulating why that is. And because of that, I'm just like, oh, like, forget it. I'm not dwelling here for very long. And so I'm just like, okay, I feel sad. I have to move on. I was feeling very fragile and very emotional within those 30 days, especially towards the end of those 30 days, when I think I was finally settling into like, okay, this is who I am. And I feel like alcohol has really masked this part of me for a long time, this emotional part of me. I feel like it contributed to this hardness that I had to feel, and this front that I had to put on of like, nothing, I'm not bothered, nothing really rattles me too much, I stay pretty even keeled, I don't open up, I don't talk about my feelings. And I feel like alcohol really had a lot to do with that. And I started to kind of like get in my feelings a bit, which is a very strange thing for me. I really feel like my guard kind of went down a little bit. And so the littlest things, like if Pete talked to me or like raised his voice at me or like said something that was joking, I took it to heart and I felt hurt by it. And even emotional, like good emotional things, like Chase was, he graduated from preschool. He's going, my battery just died. So what I was saying was, my son Chase graduated from preschool and he's gonna start kindergarten. And so they did a bunch of songs, and one of the songs that they sung during the graduation was Put a Little Love in Your Heart. And he would be singing that song, you know, at home during the day, and he always asked for me to put it on when we were driving to daycare. And then my little daughter Quinn, who's 3, she was asking me to put the song on, and I put the song on, and I literally would have tears in my eyes. I'm getting emotional about it now. I don't know why. Just the meaning behind it, the fact that my son was graduating and it's just like a sweet song and my kids both love it and my kids would both sing it, like things like that. I just was getting more, I was getting more in touch with my emotions than I had in the past, which was like a cool but kind of scary thing too for me. And realizing how much of like a hard exterior I had and how much I repressed a lot of feelings. And so just trying to become softer and letting myself experience those feelings and saying like, this is okay. I also wanted to talk about just a few physical changes. There weren't a ton, but if this is TMI, sorry, but I usually have really bad PMS symptoms the week before I get my period. And I would get very ragey, like everything would bother me. I would be extremely irritable. The littlest things would piss me off and set me on like a warpath, even if it was, you know, something very, very small. I got an email that I didn't like and I would just like fly off the rails and get very ragey and being very short with Pete and the kids and just people in general, and everything would bother me. but I felt a noticeable change that, and this would go on for about a week before I would get my period. And that would be, you know, in my head, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get my period. I noticed that I wasn't feeling any of those symptoms until literally the day before my period. So instead of like 4 days of feeling very intense and ragey and irritable and short fused, I only felt that for 1 day, the day right before my period. So I thought that was really cool. And I really loved that because I was trying a lot of stuff to regulate my PMS symptoms for the past few months, changing my diet, getting more sunlight, a variety of things, and nothing really worked. So that was good that, you know, alcohol seemed to have an effect or like intensify those feelings. I felt like my face looked a little bit less puffy towards the end of the month, and that was nice. That was like a nice thing to notice. And I also felt like I had less breakouts and less blemishes on my face during that month. And then I also wrote down that the whites of my eyes just looked whiter by the end of the month. Overall, it was a really tough month for me. I feel like the negative symptoms far outweighed the positive symptoms, but I was so hell-bent on, this is just a new lifestyle for me. I'm not gonna go back to drinking just because I didn't see any effects. Like, I'm not doing it to see physical effects or anything like that. I know I needed to push through. A lot of the videos that I watched talked about how, you know, some people might get really, really great, drastic, positive results within the first couple months, but the more I watched, the more people said around 90 days out without alcohol to 6 months is really when those massive shifts start to happen and your body starts to recalibrate and you start really getting all of those amazing effects, and they're very noticeable. I also went in to, you know, that first month kind of assuming that all of these great things were gonna happen overnight. Like, I was gonna get tremendously better sleep, and that was the complete opposite for me. I think I have had the worst sleep of my life in that first month of not drinking, and I don't know, there's a lot of factors that probably contributed to that, but I assumed that I would have good sleep. I don't, but now I'm sleeping like a baby. Kind of thought that my appearance would change, like I would lose some weight or like lean out or whatever, and I didn't really see any of those physical changes. But now thinking back on it, I wasn't drinking enough for it to move the needle on my weight. I mean, having a few drinks, like max 4 drinks in a month, is not enough to lose 5 pounds or anything. Not that I'm looking to lose any weight, but I kind of thought that like, oh, I'm not drinking, like I'm not gonna have those extra calories, and I'm also not gonna be craving those really crappy fast food stuff after you drink and you're hungover and all you want is greasy fast food. Overall, I had to keep going back to the fact that this is gonna be a slower process. I have been drinking for 20 years, and that is wild. Like, I also felt a lot of like sadness for myself in some ways, that did I waste those 20 years of my life, like, and feeling like I was putting this very toxic substance into my body? At the time, obviously not, and I had a great time, and I don't have any regrets, but I did have a lot of thoughts about like, what would my life look like now if I never started drinking? And I don't like to dwell on that a lot because the past is the past and it's led me to this place today, but I don't know. The things that kept me up at night. A couple of other things that I just really wanted to touch on that were huge milestones within that month. I celebrated my 37th birthday. My parents flew into town from New Jersey to see our new house for the first time and to spend the weekend with us. And for the first time in I don't know how many years, probably around 20 to 15 years, I didn't drink on my birthday. And that was just a really big accomplishment for me, but it also it also went back to that identity thing where I'm like, who am I? last year, my birthday, I was at a Mexican restaurant downing margaritas, like, and every other birthday was revolved around alcohol and celebrating. And a lot of what I was reading up on is like the hold that alcohol has. It's there for you when you celebrate, it's there for you when you commiserate, it's there at funerals, it's there at birthdays, graduations, weddings, like it's everywhere. And another thing that was really helpful as I was going through this kind of identity crisis, who is Amanda Fadul without alcohol? The non-alcoholic beverages that are out on the market these days are so phenomenal. I found some really great wines, like Sauvignon Blanc. I found a champagne. There's non-alcoholic beer. You can make mocktails. Like, so those non-alcoholic options that you can find in the liquor store and stuff, those really helped. A Sunday or something, Pete would be having a couple beers outside. I would just get my non-alcoholic wine and pour myself a glass, and it tastes pretty similar and it looks similar. You get that kind of like placebo effect that you feel like you're drinking when you're actually not. And I came to find out that I don't actually like drinking. I like the look of it. I like having a glass of wine in my hand and talking to people, like being in a social situation, but that's all that I like. I don't want the effects of, I don't want to even feel buzzed. Because I didn't really like that feeling. I absolutely didn't want to feel drunk because I don't like that feeling either. And then all of the negative effects the next day, like I don't want any of that. I don't want the hangover. I don't want the depression. I don't want the anxiety. I don't want the regret. I don't want any of that. All I want is to hold a drink that looks pretty in my hand, that looks like an alcoholic beverage, and go about my business. So that's where I'm like coming to terms with that. You know, when I would go out to dinner, I would try to get a mocktail, like an alcoholic mojito or a club soda with a splash of cranberry and a lime so that it looked like a vodka cranberry. And so I was really set on trying to still feel included in the drinking setting. But it's interesting going now into, you know, more into my journey without drinking, that doesn't really bother me anymore, and I don't feel like I need to have a mocktail. Like I can be fine with drinking water or Diet Coke, club soda with lemon in a wine glass or whatnot. So, all right guys, I feel like this video has been super long. I hope that it was helpful, and if you are interested in coming along on this alcohol-free journey, I would love if you would subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna be giving monthly updates and just keeping you posted on how things are going along the way. I am so excited I've set this goal of a year. I can't wait to come back and look at these videos in a year and just see what my life looks like a year after not drinking. And I'm already starting to really see all of the positives, and I can't wait to share more. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.